Joining us now, Amy Ball. She is president of Outfront Communications and a documentary filmmaker. And for the purposes of our conversation, just back from Kurdistan in northern Iraq. Welcome to TVO.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I guess the sort of colloquial question would be, what's a nice girl like you doing in a place like that, which we all assume is pretty dangerous. So what took you over there?
Well, it is actually a very safe place. I mean, people were just shot on the TTC the other day. So I would argue that Kurdistan probably has a bad rap right now. I was there to observe the general elections, provincial elections that were taking place in southern Iraq. I was in a poll at Ankawa. And Ankawa is the Christian district in Erbil. So,
which is the capital of Kurdistan.
Capital of Kurdistan.
Okay.
And
what'd you see?
I saw 80-year-old women voting for the second time in their lives and bringing 20 of their family to vote. And what they said to me, everyone I interviewed leaving the poll, was, we want peace and we want stability for future generations. These people in Kurdistan respect democracy at a level that Canadians often forget about.
Meaning what? We take it for granted and they don't.
Absolutely. They have embraced it. They are working hard. It's a fledgling democracy, but they're not wasting time on petty stuff. It's hard to come back to Canada and talk about a cosmetic surgery bill when these people are talking about some serious moving forward issues. Yeah. You know, sewage and water and security and food.
Let's just clarify. You call it Kurdistan. I guess colloquially it's called Kurdistan, but it's not its own country, right? It is.
Right.
It's a province in Iraq.
Correct. Yes.
Do they want to be their own country?
No. They've made a really good situation out of what they have right now. They've worked hard. I don't think they're ready to be their own country, and I wouldn't speak for them in that political sense at all. What I have seen is working with the Iraqi government, the national government. Their constitution is respected in Baghdad, and they're doing the things you've got to do in order to move forward as a province. They have quite sweeping executive powers when you consider it in terms of a federal-provincial relationship. You have a lot of different faith groups, differing party views, under one unicameral legislature getting things done.
So I presume there's a significant difference between what's going on in Kurdistan and what's going on in the rest of it. Well, I know there is, but because we often hear the distinction made that Kurdistan is not like the rest of Iraq.
Yes.
How's it different?
Well, it's safer, for one. There is a freedom of religion, there is a tolerance, there's a respect, and there's a safety factor that you don't have in southern Iraq. I would not go to Baghdad. If I went to Baghdad, I'd have 4 armored sedans with me, with 2 armored guards in each sedan. In Kurdistan, I traveled with a driver and an interpreter.
Did you wear a headscarf?
Never once.
You dressed like this?
Like this.
Wasn't a problem?
Walked the streets. You know what? I thought they were pointing at me as a white woman without a headscarf. They were not. They were pointing at my hair color. It was not. I had actually, and you know what, the headscarf thing, I should have wore one in Barzan. The wind was blowing. By the time I got back, it was full of dirt. It's practical. But I was never asked to. When I entered any home, I was never asked to put a headscarf on, or not at all.
Because they don't see very many redheads over there.
Well, they wanted to look at their.
Yeah.
No, they have a mutual respect for other cultures and religions. There is a tolerance there. They don't have, electricity is a little tenuous at times. You do have power outages. So because of that, you have a lot of police at intersections doing traffic control. Otherwise, they'd just be, fixing the lights. If they see an out-of-towner, like an Arab or whatever, they will hold back their population to let the Arab go because he's a guest in their town. It's a different kind of respect, mutual respect that exists there.
What do Kurds, generally speaking, think about the former president of the United States, Bush 43?
The Americans have about a 90% approval rating there. They,
and it's not because of Obama?
No. It goes back to 91. Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. are very, very well thought of there. They liberated them, they saved them. out of total coincidence, I met in the Vienna airport on my way to Erbil two generals who had liberated Iraq. General J. Garner, and he was sent in to do some serious mission work. The Kurds in the mountains were dying at 400 a day. He didn't just set up a base camp and say, "Here we are, come and get us." He sent guys into the mountains, fully loaded with supplies, until they felt comfortable enough to come out. The Americans have been there with a foreign policy that's forward-thinking and built on redevelopment that I haven't actually seen and wasn't really aware of until I got there. I think of American foreign policy as more aggressive. This I found very refreshing. I was very impressed by them.
So whereas the United States is coming under tremendous criticism for all of the mess-ups they've done in southern Iraq, as it were,
yes,
you don't see that in northern Iraq.
They did this right.
They did it right there.
And the Kurds, the Minister of Culture said, "I would really like the American government to allow us to go to Baghdad and bring the American soldiers that are buried there to Kurdistan, because I want them to be buried here where we can welcome their families in, where we can treat their graves with respect, and where we can show them the gratitude that we feel for them."
Now, Amy, as much as you are portraying this as a kind of a safe, wonderful place,
yes,
you know, we are reading dispatches in the news about increasing tensions on the so-called border. You know, people are getting killed, people are getting wounded and maimed. I mean, it's still a dangerous place, isn't it?
There are sections that are dangerous, that's for certain, and there are sections I wouldn't go to without a bodyguard or a proper contingent. But for the most part, the city of Erbil is safe for foreign investment. It is probably the next Dubai, in my estimation.
Is there a Kurdish, Arab, meaning southern Iraq, war coming, do you think?
No. I think the Kurds have had their fill, and they just want to move forward, which is why they continue to be non-pressing on the issues of Article 140 and the disputed territory of Kirkuk that has not yet been turned over to them full force. You know, they still have some rights under 140 that have not been exercised, and they're not pressing them because they're getting on with the business, and I think they think that it will come, and I believe it will come if the international community gets together.
How much oil have they got?
They're sitting on 3 billion barrels of oil.
That helps.
It helps. It makes you a little more attractive.
As a place to not only invest but live and
yes,
the whole 9 yards.
And I find for Ontario, as a province, to recognize another province and to get involved, what they need is small and medium-sized manufacturers. I'm hoping to bring a trade delegation over there in the fall. Where we're receding, they need that intelligence. They need intellectual property. They need people to teach them how to do it, how to train their people and move forward. We have that in Ontario in spades.
Where does your interest in this place come from?
I don't.
Where are you from?
Where am I from? I'm from Niagara.
You grew up in Niagara?
I grew up in Niagara. I still live there with my husband and children. And
you're interested in Kurdistan?
Well, a friend of mine asked me to go, and
How long ago was that?
In around Christmas time. He had gone in September, and he came back with all these photos and ideas, and he was so passionate about it. And Middle East, I have to say, has never been one of my places of interest in terms of going. I've always been under the impression it was unsafe for me to go. But when I got there, the people really, I've never seen generosity like that. There was nothing I couldn't have asked for that they wouldn't have given me. When I went to Barzan, I was very moved. It's like going to, if I could be so bold to make a comparison to Auschwitz, it's where so many people were slaughtered. 8,000 men and boys were taken by Saddam and slaughtered. And you can't run into somebody who hasn't lost a father or a son or a brother or even a mother who's just was taken for no reason. You can't find those. And they are not carrying it around with them. They are not weighted by it. They just want to move forward. You see forgiveness. They aren't afraid of Westerners. They embrace them. They just want help to move forward.
How have they managed to avoid all of the religious wars that have inflamed the area?
I don't know. That really is a mystery to me. And I look forward to learning more about that from them. But they're just very generous people. I think maybe it's because they've been the victim of genocide after genocide after genocide. And I think they realize retaliation is not going to stop a genocide. Moving forward, building your country, investing in your people, those are things that will prevent you from being a victim in the future.
Well, I think we all remember Michael Ignatieff saying when, before he was leader of the Liberal Party, that he supported the war in Iraq because he said he stood with the Kurds. They were the victims of gassing and he wanted to stand with them.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about Canada. Another reason for your trip was that you're kind of starting this global classroom project. Tell us about that and what you would like Canada to be doing in that regard.
My daughter, her grade 5 class, all wrote letters to a class of 10-year-old students in Kurdistan, in Erbil, the Howler Typical School. And so I was just anticipating going to this school and presenting the letters and, you know, starting a relationship, because children have the ability to break down barriers. They don't have that preconceived notion that these people are bad or they want to attack us, or there's none of that. So my intention was just to start that relationship with Canadian schools. By the time I delivered those letters, the whole school wanted letters. So I came back and I said, I'll find you all classrooms, not a problem. An organization, a publishing company called The Magazine, which publishes a children's magazine, has already offered textbooks to this school. I'll be bringing those back. They are going to help me with a website that we can have children from all over Canada log on and connect with children in Kurdistan, but possibly bringing it global in the future, because those are our best opportunities to break down preconceived notions of racial and ethnic bias.
So that's at the grassroots level. How about government to government? Do we have any presence over there?
No.
Canada has none.
Well, I'm hoping that will change. I've put together a policy paper that I'm going to submit to some federal ministers, and I really can't blame them in a war-torn area for not having a foreign policy on an area that's unstable from a national perspective. So my job is to share with them the information, and hopefully I can make a change there.
You going to go back?
I'm going back in April with humanitarian aid. I'm going back with medical supplies for the Public Health Center. I've promised to, hopefully with CEDA's help and UNESCO's help, open up a women's shelter in Barzan for these women. I'm asking for donations of sewing machines and computers and fabric to help them move forward. The schools are looking for donations of English language textbooks and computers. I'm also going to put a Canadian room in the Howler Typical School. There's a German room. The German government has put in a German room there, and I want a Canadian room because we should be there. And that's my plan for April, to bring that back.
One last question. You got a husband and 2 kids. Mm-hmm. What do they think about all this?
Well, my daughter is excited about the Pen Pal project, so that helped. My husband didn't know I got on the plane by myself until I got back.
You were supposed to go with somebody else.
I was supposed to go with 2 others, and there was an issue, and they weren't able to attend. So
you went by yourself?
Which I told them when I got home.
You told them after you got home that you went by yourself?
Well, I'm safe and sound, so everything's okay, right? Nothing to fight about.
Oh, no, not much.
Not much. We'll be talking again soon, he and I.
If you're lucky.
If I'm lucky, yeah.
So he wasn't thrilled with the notion of you going over there by yourself?
No.
I'm inferring.
No, he's not. He hears a lot of the media reports. I use him as a real litmus test almost for what Canadians think about that area. He thinks about what he reads, which is it's unsafe. There are spontaneous attacks. There are this, there are that. That's not the case.
Well, we thank you for coming in tonight and helping paint a clearer picture of what you saw in Kurdistan. Thanks so much, Amy Ball.
My pleasure. Thank you.